Really?
This is Senate Appropriations, and we're working on the 24 budget adjustment. And what we have now is really trying to put in on one sheet the flooding and municipal assistance positions that we have ahead of us. And obviously, FEMA match is really important because drawing down those federal dollars and how we can make sure that we've got the funding there, as well as other ways of assisting impacted communities. So I'm going to let you walk through this spreadsheet that you've put together for us. Some of what we've done is try to put some of our discussions to date on the right-hand side. Not that that's absolutely in concrete, but it's just a way of helping us move the discussion forward. Emily?
And is this a 50-50 match?
No, the FEMA match is all over the place.
It's all.
75, 25, but some are different than that. So we actually have a memo from Doug Furnham about the different match rates, but it's higher than the 50-50.
Higher than?
All right, so for the record, Emily Burns, the Joint Fiscal Office. I'll sort of orient you to the spreadsheet first, and then we'll go through this.
Yeah, we want to be orientated, is what we say. Is that a word, Professor?
Oriented.
Orientated?
No, oriented.
No. Haven't you heard Vermonters say orientate?
Oh, I have to.
Yeah, like they unthaw.
Irregardless.
They
Yeah.
irregardless, right? Unthaw, yes. All right. Back to you, Emily.
Sure. So we'll start, so the blue column is the governor's recommend, and then we've got yellow is the House and green is the Senate. And one of the things that we had to kind of figure out how to show was that the governor kind of came in twice, right? So first he came with his FY 2024 budget adjustment proposal, so that's lines 1 through 6, and then subtotal on 7. And then when he presented the budget, he added some things to his proposal for flood and municipal assistance related to the July flood. So I had to figure out how to show what he put in the BAA and then what he put in his recommendation.
Very helpful.
And then the House has what they did in the BAA, and then the Senate trying to kind of reconcile both of those, both with the governor's 2 bites and then the House piece. So the first line at the top, I'll start there, is the governor initially proposed $6 million, which is the state share of the municipal FEMA match, which is ERAF. You know, a lot of people talk about ERAF, or that's the ERAF match. So then ERAF, where this gets a little, there's the FEMA money that comes in, and then there's a match required for that. What the state currently does, they do it for not just this disaster, but lots of disasters. Through the ERAF fund, the state will contribute approximately 50% of that match, and then the municipalities pick up the other 50%. If the state didn't kick in their 50%, the whole thing would land on the municipalities. It's not a perfect 50% match. It's about like on average 50%, depending on what the issue is. It's a different sort of match rate.
And there's some discretion on that match rate.
Yeah.
So,
Better run through that one more time.
well, I think what we're saying,
We got
just
150%.
for making it easy, say it's an 80-20 match. So you gotta come up with 20%. Right now, that is shared 10% to munis, 10% the state would pay. It's split half and half, that 20% state match. There are provisions where, and some discretion about actually having the state pay a bit more than 50%. So that's something out there that can be done administratively. So that's what, I think if I understand what you're saying is, assuming if it's 75-25, the calculation gets a little more difficult than 80-20, but it's the 20% or whatever the match rate is, it's split equally between state.
So when we get to the end, there's still money that the municipality's still gonna have to put in.
Yeah,
It doesn't cover it all.
no. Okay, so do you wanna go to the first, beyond the first line?
No, I just say in those first 2, what the proposal here is that we would pick up the full cost
No,
No,
with
no,
this.
no.
no. So the first Yeah, so the first 6 was like the down payment, if you will, into the ERAF fund, and then the second 5 million that the governor originally proposed in his 2025 budget. Was the fully funding of the state share for ERAF based on current law,
Which would be 11
is
million.
11 million.
Mhm.
And my understanding is that 10 of that is for the July flood, and then another million is for just other disasters that have happened that require, that municipalities that require match. So there'd be this would be 11 million in the ERAF, which would fully fund the state contribution to the ERAF fund to support municipal match, the FEMA fund.
At the 50%.
Approximately the 50%. The line 3, this is FEMA match, this is the state share for state damage, so state buildings and whatnot, this is the governor proposed 30 million, the House concurred with that. The proposal is to continue to concur with that 30 million is sort of the initial down payment for the state share of FEMA expenses.
And is that a 50-50 or?
No,
No, that one is another one that depends on like what structure was damaged and.
they're variable matches, but
Yeah.
all of them are like 75 or above, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's like 80-20 or 90-10.
Yeah.
So is there additional money down below?
No, the 30 million is the state match to draw down, so if it's 90% that, if state buildings could be at 90%, then the 30 would be 10% of whatever that total bill.
And at number 10, that's different than.
Yes.
number 2.
So
Okay, so that one.
let's keep going on here. So 30, we need 30 million just for the match on the damage the state itself
Yeah.
experienced. And we're all in agreement, I think we closed that out.
Yeah,
Now,
so the next 2 lines, these are sort of the same lines, but wanted to show them differently because there's a little bit more discussion about targeting a little bit more on the Senate.
Yeah.
So we're aware that the House put in $10 million and it was pretty general
we just said for grants.
for grants to municipalities. Initial conversations I've had with the chair, sort of kicking around the proposal to allocate the $10 million based on either grand list lost by municipality, right? Figure out total amount of grand list loss, and then allocate as a percentage of total loss, allocate $10 million based on that percentage of the total state loss. So,
We're trying to figure a way of being fair. And the other part is, some of us have been getting emails from city managers and they have their ideas of how they would like to use the money. And it became very obvious for us to try to put, permissible uses got very complicated. And so it seemed like it would be better to go to like a block grant concept and have a formula that, was based on the actual data. And while we focused on Montpelier and Barry, we can't forget Ludlow was very substantially damaged. Chester, a small town, Johnson, and Hardwick. So there are other areas that were designated, and so this seemed to, after pondering it, and then I was talking to Andy, and we're all coming to the same place. We can turn ourselves inside and out trying to do something elaborate as opposed to trying to make sure that we're allocating the money out in such a way that there was some equity or reflective of the financial harm and the damage that was incurred by each of those designated municipalities. So we're working on what would be the right way to move the money, because other thing is to do it in a way that's very expeditious. I think that was the other part of the testimony, is that particularly Berry City financial situation was already pretty stressed, and so the easier that we can make it, the fairer we can make it, and simple seemed to be where we ended up. But we don't know how that formula will look like right now. It's just under development.
So really the difference between the House and the Senate is they don't have any allocation formula and
They just had grants.
yeah, and we're suggesting doing it based upon grants in a form.
Well, I just want to mention Londonderry too, and there's so many communities that,
Did they get designated?
Oh, Londonderry got ace.
Yeah, so, so that was what we were trying to address, Dick, was recognizing all those they had the FEMA designation. And making sure that, even though we're here in central Vermont, we realize that, many areas were around the state. So that's sort of how we ended up. Committee, does that sound like a reasonable way of being fair and making sure, okay, that we're allocating the money in the most aligned with the damage and the financial situation is most acute. Okay.
Yeah, and I've been playing phone tag with Doug Farnham all day to, figure out what data is easily available, or, to try to come up with what kind of makes sense.
Okay.
For what they've got, so we'll, more to come on those specifics
I
there.
was told the league might have.
Believe me.
Yeah.
You had some conversation yesterday with.
Yeah.
Okay, number 6.
Number 6, the House put in contingent appropriation language around ARPA reallocation dollars. They had tagged the first 5 million of ARPA funding for municipalities that were impacted by the flood. Given the sort of bigger picture conversation proposal to sort of hold all of the ARPA reallocation conversation until we get to the big bill.
I thought we did something different yesterday.
Well, that's number 8. I think line 8.
Yes, I have to keep going.
You mean
We took it
moved
out.
it to appropriation? Line 8 moves it to line 2, or what?
Yes,
Yes.
And that's the one that would go to the Community Resilience Fund at ACCD. Because this says state share municipal line 2.
Yeah, this is where the 5 million was getting confused. And, I was, not correctly understanding what the 5 million was. And what the 5 million was also goes to municipalities.
So there's the 5 million in the water law.
Yeah.
That we
Moved up.
moved up. So where is that on the sheet?
It is, added to the BAA and it's line 2.
Okay, so even though it says state share municipal FEMA match, that doesn't seem like it's going to the municipality.
Well, it could help buy down their match,
It could.
Yeah.
But it might.
but we have to figure out the money, yeah. So
Right.
rather than have, maybe we can split it 60-40. I don't know,
So it's not the same language that was in the.
It's not the-
contingent fund.
no, it's
So we
not-
took out, not only to take the money out of contingencies, but we took out the purpose, because they had it on there to go to ACCD for grants. The way they had their 5 million in there.
Yeah, okay,
So we took out
yeah,
both the construct and the,
yeah, so we were gonna move 5 million in. Right, which we could right now, believe, so we can have some discussion about, do we want to, how we want to spend that. That
That 5
can be
million.
open.
okay,
But, the reason I wanted Emily to run through this is because I realized yesterday, I was, that 5 million was not clearly understood, and I acknowledge my own confusion on that. So we can talk about it more, because I was adding it to the.
right, that's what I was.
Yeah, and that's how I understood it, but the question then becomes one of, how do we make sure we've got sufficient FEMA match, to fund our 50%?
Yeah, and I think, yes, there's multiple $5 million, which. But yeah, so this would bring ERAF to the full 11 million funding that's needed to cover the state's share of ERAF. Or the state's share of the municipal match for FEMA. It's confusing that there's a state share. and
So we-
match, but
We can see what the money looks like.
Yeah.
So we're thinking that the 11 million is just the state share, that the municipalities will still have to come up with their share.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's at the 50%. Now, there is some discretion, and we can kind of look at that, whether.
Right, and that might be a place to put more, like, as a place to put additional funding to the extent the municipalities have to come up with their share of that. By rule, the state sets their match and you could direct the administration to change, you could put more money into it and then have the administration change their allocation and that would provide more state funding. So the municipalities would have to come up with less match.
But the 11 million is what we thought.
Assuming at the 50, the standard.
So if you
Yeah.
change it, you have to come up with more money.
Mhm.
And then the last two pieces in the governor's FY 2025 recommendation, he put 12.5 million for the state match for hazard mitigation grants. So this is buyouts and other sort of hazard mitigation. Sort of that over and above the FEMA funding available for those programs, the state would kick in funding for that.
It's a state match for mitigation grants. There's a federal,
There's
what do we match in here? Federal funds?
Mhm.
Okay, are they federal FEMA or are they different
Yes.
source?
FEMA.
They're FEMA, okay. All right, so, the 5 million, back to that, is, that helps make sure that we have the money to do our 50% match at a minimum, and hopefully we can do more.
And then the last one, the 36 million, so the governor in his recommendation put forward a contingent appropriation for ARPA to the extent funds are identified. One of the only place that he put money, I think he said $40 million, so for 90% of that, so that's 36 million, would be a additional match for state municipal, or not state municipal, for the state buildings, so the $30 million up above isn't the full state match that's needed, there's gonna be additional money that's needed, so their first place to go is ARPA reallocation
So that
for that.
they, in total, it would be 66 if we agreed with the governors on the 36 plus
But it
the 30 up
It would
above.
be a contingent 36.
Contingent 36, and it would go to both match for the state buildings and for the hazard mitigation piece, those are the two pieces that aren't fully matched yet, so they would use their ARPA contingent appropriation to
And,
beef those up.
and the mitigation grants will go out to municipalities as well.
I don't know if they go to, do you know if they go to munis or individuals? Maybe it goes to individuals, no, municipalities.
Yes,
Municipalities.
yeah. They're the grant, they're the ones that apply to the grant.
Okay,
So
so that's another way of helping munis is making the match for the federal grant, so there's no municipal share, or is that based on a split?
I need to check on that one.
Okay,
so
all right, Senator Westman.
So that 36, is that not the 37 that Doug talked about the other day when you came in for match, and that we're getting by running the money, the ARPA money through so we can free up state dollars?
That's another point I should back up to on that one. So the 37, I believe, is the 30 at the top plus part of the 36 would get you the 37.
Okay,
The 5, the reallocation you're referring to, the 5, that's how they buy the line 8
right,
amount.
that's the 30, yeah.
But he talked about reallocating much more than 5, not 30 or 8.
Yeah,
Yes, that's in their contingent appropriation.
That's the 36.
Yeah,
that's where so the 37 he talked about, which is basically cutting and running money through corrections to free up state dollars to do the match, and he thought it was in my mind 120, but it shows up on this sheet as 210.
37.
Is in this 36 in a piece of the 30?
I will need, I need to go double check that with Doug. Now I'm getting nervous.
Okay,
I do know, so what I do know that's explicit in the budget that the governor put forward, there is $5 million worth of reversions from ARPA appropriations that were made. That they then reappropriate in the Department of Corrections
Yeah, to get to the
to
5
get the 5 million, that
And
this
that-
5 million
And
they
that's,
funded.
that's the 5 million that we're moving into the BAA.
Yes, So when you move that into the BAA, it will come with the ARPA reversions, the corrections, swap, and then 5 million appropriated at ERAF. We'll get that funded with no additional general fund. Or with. No.
So in total. On all of this, when we made the matching, how much federal dollars in total are we drawing down?
We are,
Is that the 210 or the
FEMA is 333 and the state match goes with it, so it's 370 million there. And then you've got more FEMA on the backside of 180, 20 million from the municipality. 10 split 10 and 10, which is obviously the 80-20 match that goes with that. So the question then becomes one of how much of that 10 million that would normally be born under that 50-50 split can be picked up, so it reduces the match.
so
When I-
but I'm looking at all of this, is it the 410? Is it plus the 210?
Yes, it would be. It's a total of 600 in the prior, and then it shows you how it's broken down.
This is the breakdown of the state, and then you add the municipal, and then that's the breakdown of the municipal.
Right, I'm just, okay,
And what I can do, since Doug and I have been playing phone tag, what I can ask him is given this proposal,
yeah,
how much federal funding would that pull in? And
Yeah.
what's the gap, right? What's the
Yeah.
after?
what's the gap between the damage and that?
And so we may wanna really look at this in two ways. The 10 million provides immediate relief, and then the other, the extent to which we protect municipalities with match or how we wanna balance the two. But if you put more into, say, the block grant, it conceivably might mean there's less to help them with the match that they need to draw down FEMA. Yeah.
But that kind of goes to that question of the formula where you give them the money and you kind of let them decide if they.
Well, on the FEMA match, they can't, oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, they could.
Oh, I see, they could,
30 to 70.
yeah,
They can do on their grand list whatever they feel is important.
I think it's better that we privilege the match, because if we,
Cause that brings down the federal dollars and.
yeah, and who knows if they have other momentary things that tempt them to not go down.
Right, but the 10 million could really be immediate relief,
Yeah,
and then the other could be. It's financial relief, cause if they have to come up with, if we can help them buy down that match, that's another way of assisting. Yes, you know, then,
Yeah, okay.
Well, go ahead, your.
Well, I was gonna say, and then separate from this, we passed the bill that allows them to
they,
abate property taxes on that property, and that gets shared across the statewide property tax. And then this aid helps that, and then we gave businesses 20 million that we're refunding in this bill, with from last summer.
that's right.
Refunding to the broadband.
And the
Yes,
other
we're
was
refunding
advancing the
to
taking the 10 million out of Efficiency Vermont and making that available for the replacement of heating systems and appliances.
So we did 10 to efficiency Vermont.
Yeah, check.
Right, I don't know how much.
Yeah.
I don't know either, but we also allowed them to do that. And then it was the 20 million B gap, which is all gone.
And then what do we do? Next fall, they're gonna, pull back any money that isn't gonna be spent after money.
Oh,
December, but Doug said by September, December is the date, so he said September, he's drawn a line, so he'll.
and that,
Sure.
Anything in 25, we could use some of that money to.
well, that gets us into the 25 budget. And the House had it all spent. They had a long list. We pulled it out and said, that kind of discussion, our housing committee There are a lot of it, millions and millions for housing, haven't had a chance. And that's something that's not time sensitive, because you won't know how much you've got. So we can give that more thought in terms of what that priority of spending would be. Based on, the amount of freed up ARPA dollars that won't be known until September.
But then that has to be used up fairly quick.
Yes, that's why we went,
So
that's
they would be
why,
Obligated.
that's right, so in the 25 budget, we will have to identify how, in priority, how we want any available reallocated ARPA money to be spent, so it's already appropriated and it's contingent on the amount of money that Doug will know we have in September.
He said 200 to 300 million. I thought.
Well, that's total, but some of that will get spent. I thought he was thinking it would be around that 38 million. That would be a.
I think he was, I don't remember he was very specific at all.
No,
Because so much of it's in play, and there was some that they know can come back now, but it's not a whole lot.
that's kind of their 5 million is what they felt sure, but so my question is then line 9 and 10. My thinking was that was also ARPA swap, but you're saying, where's that money come from if it's not ARPA swap, or is it ARPA swap?
Which,
9 and 10,
oh, not one, it's 9 to 10.
36 is the water.
but that's waterfall from ARPA swap,
Yes.
okay, and the 12.5 is also that?
The 9 is just in the governor's general fund.
Where's 9?
Recommendation, line 9 is
Oh, line,
6.5,
yes.
so that's just how he spent
General fund,
general fund in his budget constructs.
okay.
And then the 36 is his proposal for how to reallocate our.
Yeah,
budget.
if we go up,
In addition to the 5. Because the
Yes.
5
Yes,
says
in
ARPA
addition to the
swap.
five, yes, and the 5 we sort of like is done. But like through the action, if you accept it, right, will be reverted, reappropriated. And
So
then the 36 is
So it's-
TBD joint fiscal.
So it's fair to say that between the budget adjustment and next year, that this committee is considering in the range of $90 million to make federal match for for the state and municipality problems. And we gave permission to Efficiency Vermont to do 10 million for heating systems. We gave $20 million in the summer that we're repaying in this budget adjustment for businesses. And we gave them that ability to abate taxes in a bill.
not having to pay the ed fund, that was $1 million one.
Yeah, but it was abated and the state would share. And that's the package of things that we've been considering in this meeting.
But this, when we go back, this is really a good document to have to go with this as well. And thank you, if we looked at the top, we can see what is general fund and what's ARPA, potential reversion. So, any other questions about the sheet? It's very helpful, and if you've got the document from Doug Farnham, it helps break down how much of the state is experienced for the damages, actual damage, and then the 210 municipal.
It
So
would-
I'll put the two together and hopefully I can find it.
But you're saying that line 8, general fund, because the swap was effectively already done.
Yeah,
It would be helpful.
We'll authorize it,
yeah,
we'll have the language to do that.
It would be helpful to get the total number from him of money that we're drawing down when it's a $600 million or $620 million, not that we're looking at.
yeah, I think to that, like,
Well, the other thing, don't forget, he's factoring in the insurance payments as well, and so it's not just the
But that,
match.
yeah, so, and what, you must have an estimate on the insurance payments.
He does, it's right
Yeah.
here,
There it
right
is.
there.
right, I think the question for me would be if,
Right.
say the ARPA,
It's about 50 million in insurance between the two, 40
Yeah.
for the state and 10 for municipal.
if the question I would have is that the ARPA contingency did come to pass, what does that leave for 2026 in terms of FEMA match from the state that would be necessary, right? So there's a little bit of a like.
The 36 is what you're worried about?
Well, just, yeah, like if that's his first play of the ARPA reallocation. If that ARPA reallocation doesn't come to pass, that doesn't change the fact that there'll be need for additional FEMA match, right?
Yes.
Down the road, so it's,
So if we spend it for something else, then we're just building a hole for, whoever sits around this table
Not.
in the next session. Thank you, Emily, for doing this. Any other questions you have?
The mitigation grant, like other FEMA damage, the match is similar or within, right?
yeah, I'll find out what the match is.
You know, I don't.
They're not just like grants that mitigate for future flooding, like buying and what. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure. I mean, it is more of a future looking type
But I guess the
program.
match would be the same, no matter what, whether it's repairing a building or buying a weapon.
Somewhere I have the memo that was sent, and you probably can find it on the House, website, where Doug actually outlines the different match rates for different, FEMA components. And, sure I have it somewhere, but if I can put your hands on it right now, I can't, but, we can make that available. So, if you can find that, we'll answer the questions about which categories in the match rate that goes with each. Unless somebody else knows the answer off the top of their head, but I think probably referring to Doug's memo would probably be the easiest way of getting that. Okay. It is 3:15 on a Friday afternoon, and I imagine people are ready to wrap up. We'll reconvene. I toyed with the thought to we come in on Monday, but I don't think we will, in terms of what we've got left. So we'll start again on Tuesday. And we're closed. Yeah, we're getting.
The goal would be to get it out next week.
So I'm gonna adjourn the committee for the week. Look forward to seeing you here with us again on Tuesday, Senator Sears.
Same back.
I
And
do too.
we'll adjourn for not only the day, but for the week, okay? Unless anyone would like us to schedule a meeting. No,
Tomorrow or Monday?
neither way.
Tomorrow, Sunday, and
Neither one, neither